Hey everyone, it's Leandra here at New Vocations Racehorse Adoption Program's Lexington facility. And here with me is Blonde Moment. This is one of the fillies in our program. She was actually just adopted and will be going home soon. But for today, she's going to be the model because she has been living on 24/7 turnout, and it is really common, especially in the South in the winter months here, to experience different skin conditions. It's something we see all the time, and I figured we'd do a little trainer tip about some just brief no-tos so you can address these issues if you see them. So we're going to talk about scratches and Rainrot. Both are bacterial infections or diseases that your horse can get that are very temporary, generally very temporary, and we're going to try to teach you some quick strategies to address those and recognize them so you know how to deal with that. So Blonde Moment here, like I said, she was out on 24/7 turnout, and that is a big precursor for them to get one of the two of those conditions because they're out in the humidity, they're not coming into the dry stalls every day, so they're exposed to the moisture. And moisture can help the bacteria to brew in different ways. So the bacteria that causes Rainrot, your horse most likely has it living in their coat, and it doesn't cause issues until it finds a way to penetrate the skin. And the way that it can do that is if there's some sort of trauma, like a cut, if there is an insect bite, or in the case of excessive moisture, what happens is that moisture strips away the natural protective oils in your horse's coat and makes their skin more vulnerable to getting invaded by that bacteria, and when it gets under the skin, it can wreak havoc. And it's called, or one of the reasons that Rainrot is sort of a suitable name for it is because they're most likely to get it on the spots where rain will hit. So especially sort of dorsal parts of their head, their neck, their back. They're very unlikely to get it on their belly or their legs. You might see a little bit at the top of their legs where there could be drippage from a blanket or dripping down. But when we get into the legs, especially the lower legs, you're more likely going to see that being scratches. So the Rainrot, she doesn't have much. She had a little tiny bit along the ridge here, and what it'll look like is little scabbies. You can see this is coming off, so her skin underneath looks really healthy, but this little scabby here, that's probably the aftermath of Rainrot. So it's already well grown out on her skin, but we don't want to pick at it if you see it in their coat, because the horses are great at healing on their own, and if you are pulling off that scab before it's ready, then you're causing the trauma that's then going to help that bacteria get right back under their skin. So you can help to soften the scab so that when the skin is ready, they can, what happens is the white blood cells come in, they make this little pustule, similar to scratches, it scabs over, the skin cells will die, that's what happens to the scab, and then it has to sort of push it out and grow out. So you don't want to, even though you might be trying to help, peel that scab off, because then you're abbreviating that healing time, and then, like I said, making them vulnerable again. So that's with Rainrot. Like I said, you'll see that especially on the top line, but you really want to let that grow out, and they are very good at healing on their own if you take them out of the environment that causes it. Generally, in about a week even, you can see that their skin will heal up on its own. But in some cases, they'll need some extra help, especially if you can't take them out of the environment, like one with excessive moisture or where they're in 24/7 turnout. And there are a bunch of different products or things that you can do to help them when they can't get out of that environment. So we'll go over that in a second. But I want to talk about scratches because when we brought Blondie here in to get her ready as she's coming around to the point where she'll be going off to her new home, I noticed that just on one of her legs, she has some mild scratches. And it's sort of difficult to see here, but you'll see more pronounced pustules. So there's scabs And this right now has chlorhexidine, which is one of my favorite solutions for scratches. But this is what you'll see on the lower limb. It's also called dew poisoning or mud fever or cracked heels. There are a lot of different names for it, but it's another bacteria that can invade their skin, especially in those excessively moist conditions, and cause this reaction. So what I was saying that there's chlorhexidine, which is that blue scrub right there, sitting on her leg there. So I'm going to make sure it's dry. We put the chlorhexidine on, and then we'll let it sit for 10 minutes before gently washing it off. It's really important to make sure you're not washing excessively when obviously that excessive moisture is something that can cause issue. So in these situations, if you have a really extreme case, you might wash it a couple times a day, do the chlorhexidine if you're doing that method, or you can use betadine. You might wash it a couple times a day by using that method and then taper off as it resolves. But you really want to minimize the amount that you're soaking or scrubbing. You should always be really gentle. And then there are a lot of different solutions for the topical treatment that you can put on after you've let that sit. And chlorhexidine is a great tool to use as well for Rainrot. You can let that sit and sort of gently wipe it away. Fungus among us is another one, but MTG is a great solution. It's a mineral oil with some sulfur, I think, in it, that you can use to soften those scabs to help them come off. So right now, Blondie here is having this chlorhexidine sit on the scratches. We'll gently wash it off, dry it off, and then most likely use what we call ice cream because it smells like mint ice cream. This coat defense, it says right on here, it can help speed healing for scratches as well as wounds and summer sores. Blondie is pretty excited about it too. And Coat Defense also has a preventative powder, and what it does is help prevent the conditions from that excessive moisture that lead to those bacteria invading. So this is just a real quick and dirty about some of the skin conditions that you might see, especially if you're in these parts of the world where it can be very humid or very moist. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments box. We're going to sign off, but we'll circle back and try to address all those questions. If you have other techniques for addressing the different skin conditions, let us know, write it. We can all learn a lot from each other. And thank you so much for joining us today for our Trainer Tip Tuesday.